We just watched one of the most unique experiences in the history of sports. And I'm talking about the Caitlin Clark experience. Here's the excuse I'm going to give them, and this is the bow I'm gonna put on this whole conversation. And this is a sympathetic take towards everybody on the Indiana Fever. And it's gone on nonstop. The Caitlin Clark experience has been nonstop since last October, early November.
Caitlin Clark's not just changing the game on the court. She's at the center of a bigger conversation about the WNBA and what happened in the playoffs. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
And then the clock rolls into the NCAA tournament. And by the NCAA tournament, I was like, this girl's the biggest star in sports. When practice starts back up in October and games start back up in early November or late October, she's now the biggest star in college sports, and she's playing at Iowa.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
No, it's never happened in America. And then when you throw on the animus and the jealousy and the media being against her, February, March of 2024, it's like, holy cow, she's the biggest star in all of sports, and she's a woman. This is very unique. No woman's ever been asked to carry this burden.
Let's talk about Clark's rookie season. It was insane. She broke the league's single season assist record and scored more points than any rookie ever. Clark was cooking out there, making veteran players look like they were still in high school. But here's where things get weird. The playoffs rolled around and suddenly Clark wasn't the same player we'd been watching all season. Something was off. In game 1 against Connecticut, she only scored 11 points. That's crazy low for her. So what happened? This isn't just about losing a game. There's way more to this story. Pressure, spotlight, drama behind the scenes. It all came crashing down at once.
And then obviously you have Angel Reese still trolling her, and the people in the media being uncomfortable, and Paige Beckers is really the best player, and Paige Beckers, you know, she understands her white privilege. She ain't break my record. I was playing with a real size basketball. She wasn't. All of that. And it's like, oh, wow.
You won't believe what really went down. What caused this shocking playoff meltdown? Clark's stats were off the charts, but numbers don't tell the whole story. What if I told you the real game wasn't happening on the court at all? There's a hidden side to being the next big thing in the WNBA. Imagine stepping onto the court with the weight of an entire league on your shoulders. That's exactly what Caitlin Clark faced in her rookie season.
Caitlin Clark doesn't. And so here's a woman that becomes the biggest star in sports earlier this year, February, around that time. Goes all the way through the NCAA tournament, ends in early April. The next week, or within a week or 10 days, they have the WNBA draft, and ratings fly through the roof.
She wasn't just playing basketball, she was carrying the hopes and dreams of fans, executives, and the future of women's basketball. The media frenzy around Clark was insane. Every move, every shot, every interview, it was all under a microscope. And let's be real, that kind of attention is no joke. It's like having a spotlight on you 24/7, and there's nowhere to hide. But here's the thing, Clark tried to keep it simple. She famously said, "I just want a ball." Sounds easy, right? Wrong. When you're the face of a league, just playing the game isn't an option anymore. You're suddenly a role model, a spokesperson, and a target for criticism all rolled into one.
She gets snubbed for the Olympics, and then, you know, all the hatred from Cheryl Swopes and everybody in the WNBA, it just all keeps building and feeding on itself. She's having this incredible deal. And then a week or two later, she's into a WNBA camp. And then by early May, she's playing WNBA games. And the momentum just keeps going. I forget the guy that asked her the really stupid question, and she just said, hey, look, her answer wasn't these exact words, but it's just like, hey, I just want a ball.
The Indiana Fever's season was like a roller coaster ride on steroids. They started rough, going 1-8. Most teams would have thrown in the towel, but not with Clark at the helm. They fought back hard, clawing their way into the playoffs for the first time in years. That's the kind of comeback story people love, but it comes with a price. Think about it. Every game was do or die. Every win was celebrated like a championship, and every loss was dissected like a crime scene. The pressure was building, and it wasn't just on Clark. The whole team was feeling it.
She's playing in a social issues league that wants to wear shirts that say vote, wants to scream Black Lives Matter, wants to push some sort of political agenda. You know, I don't want, and then WNBA players got upset. We don't have the privilege of just playing basketball. We have to care about these social issues.
You know what's crazy? All this drama was happening before the playoffs even started. Clark and her teammates were exhausted, not just physically, but mentally. It's like running a marathon and then being told you have to climb a mountain right after.
That got her on a bargain basement deal and is telling her, well, we're gonna wait to promote you until we're done promoting Asia Wilson. She just wants the ball. She just wants to be the best basketball player. And she's caught up in this political deal, and she's caught up in this racial discussion, and she's dealing with Nike, an organization.
The constant attention, the expectations, the roller coaster season, it all added up. Clark might have looked cool and collected on the court, but behind the scenes, it was a different story. She was trying to navigate being a rookie, a star, and the future of the league all at once. But here's where Clark's true character shines through. Even with all this pressure, she never lost faith in her team. She said, I have all the confidence in the world in this team.
And these Indiana Fever players are all caught up in the middle of this too. They're all having conversations they used to not have because no one cared about the WNBA. And so these guys could go play their game, and she's in the middle of all of these racial discussions that she has nothing to do with, wants nothing to do with, and then they're demonizing her fans.
That's not just talk, that's leadership. When things got tough, Clark was there, rallying her teammates, keeping spirits high. You might think, well, that's what stars do, right? But remember, Clark's not some seasoned vet. She's a rookie, fresh out of college, thrust into a spotlight brighter than anything she'd ever experienced. Most people would crack under that kind of pressure. Clark, she thrived. But even superheroes have their limits. As the playoffs approached, the toll of the season started to show. The excitement of making the playoffs was real, but so was the exhaustion. Clark and her teammates had given everything they had just to get there, and that's when things started to unravel. You think the pressure on the court was intense? That's nothing compared to the storm brewing behind the scenes. Clark and her team were about to face a challenge that no amount of practice could prepare them for. Let's talk about what was really going down off the court. Fan harassment, racial tensions, league drama. It was like a powder keg waiting to explode.
And they got a little small 3-4 week break because of the Olympics, but it still wasn't much of a break because a lot of the discussion was about how come she ain't on the Olympic team? And now they're in this bubble. Every arena they go to is filled to the rim. There's all this conversation. It's all exhausting. They're gonna give their best effort. They wanted to win that game.
And guess who was stuck right in the middle of it all? Yep, Caitlin Clark. Imagine this. You're trying to focus on the biggest games of your career, and suddenly you're dealing with fans crossing the line. During a playoff game, Clark had to signal for security because some idiot in the crowd made an inappropriate comment. That's not just distracting, it's straight up scary. But here's where things get even crazier. While the league jumped to handle Clark's situation, they were dead silent about racial harassment faced by other players. Alyssa Thomas from the opposing team said the racial comments they dealt with were unprecedented and unacceptable. That's not just trash talk, that's toxic. And the WNBA's response? Let's just say it didn't exactly calm things down. The commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, tried to link all this drama to increased attention and revenue. Yeah, you read that right. She basically said, controversy is good for business. You can imagine how well that went over with the players who were dealing with this mess firsthand.
She's worn out, and so are her teammates. But they get a short little break. For one straight year, everything, the weight of the world and all these political and racial discussions centered around Caitlin Clark. And I look at last night's game and go, yeah, the play with Fag Benlay where they had her tied up and everybody just kind of walked away. I was like, oh man, They can't wait to get to Cancun.
So now Clark's not just trying to win basketball games. She's suddenly the face of all these bigger issues in the league. Remember how she said she just wanted to ball? Well, that simple dream was getting more complicated by the minute. Think about it. Clark's trying to lead her team, deal with fan harassment, navigate league politics, and oh yeah, play the best basketball of her life. It's like trying to shoot free throws while the entire arena is on fire. But here's the thing, Clark didn't crack. Her teammate Erica Wheeler said Clark managed to block out all the noise. That's not just talent, that's mental toughness on another level. Most rookies would have folded under half that pressure. You know what's wild? All this drama was happening right as the playoffs were kicking off. The Fever had fought so hard just to get there, and now they were walking into a minefield of controversy. It's like they climbed one mountain only to find an even bigger one waiting for them. And it wasn't just Clark feeling the heat. The whole team was dealing with this pressure cooker environment. Every game felt like more than just basketball. It was a statement about the future of the league, player safety, and how we handle tough conversations in sports. Millions of eyes glued to screens. Record-breaking viewership. The stage was set for Caitlin Clark to dominate. So why did her playoff dream come crashing down? The WNBA playoffs were more than just basketball games. They were a cultural event.
It's like, holy cow, she's the biggest star in all of college sports. She's bigger than any college football player. She's certainly bigger than any college basketball player. So she gets that mantle in March and April of 2023. She was the biggest star in college sports. She took that mantle in March and April of 2023 with that her first tournament run.
Game 1 of the Fever's series against the Connecticut Sun pulled in a whopping 1.8 million viewers on ESPN. That's not just good for women's basketball, it's insane for any sport competing against the NFL. All those eyes were on Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation who'd been lighting up the league all season. But something wasn't right. In that first game, Clark only scored 11 points. She shot 4 for 17. For a player who'd been breaking records left and right, this was way off. And you're probably thinking, okay, everyone has an off night, but here's where it gets wild. Game 2 rolls around and Clark bounces back. She drops 25 points and dishes out 9 assists. That's more like the Caitlin we know, right? But get this. It still wasn't enough. The Fever lost 87-81, and just like that, their playoff run was over. So what happened? How does a team with the most exciting player in the league go down so fast? It's not just about what happened on the court. Remember all that drama we talked about earlier? Pressure, the controversies, the exhaustion. It all came crashing down at the worst possible moment. Think about it. Clark and her teammates had been running on pure adrenaline for months. They'd clawed their way back from a 1-8 start to make the playoffs. Every game was do or die. And now they're facing a Connecticut Sun team that's been here before. A lot. Here's a crazy stat for you. The Sun had 222 combined playoff games of experience. The Fever, just 19. That's not a gap, that's a canyon. It's like sending a team of rookies to play against seasoned pros. Sure, talent matters, but in the playoffs, experience is king. You could see it in how the games played out. The Sun knew exactly how to handle the pressure. They'd been there, done that. For Clark and the Fever, everything was new. The intensity, the scrutiny, the way every mistake gets magnified in the playoffs, it was all hitting them for the first time. But here's what's really impressive. Even with all that going against them, Clark and the Fever didn't go down without a fight. That Game 2 performance, it showed that Clark's got that superstar mentality. She bounced back when her team needed her most. After the loss, Clark said something that tells you everything about her character. She said, "I know there's a lot of room for me to continue to improve, so that's what excites me the most." That's not just talk. That's a player who's already looking ahead, ready to learn from this experience. And let's be real, this playoff run, short as it was, is going to be huge for Clark and the Fever going forward. They've tasted playoff basketball now. They know what it takes. Next time, they won't be the wide-eyed rookies anymore. But it's not just about basketball skills. Clark and her teammates learned how to handle the spotlight, deal with controversy, and stay focused when it feels like the whole world is watching. That's the kind of experience you can't get in practice. You have to live it. Let's zoom out for a second. Caitlin Clark's story isn't just about one player or one season. It's a snapshot of the WNBA right now. Record crowds, intense rivalries, and more eyes on the game than ever before. But with all that attention comes some serious challenges. Clark's playoff experience shows us the good and the bad. On one side, you've got incredible talent and growing fan interest. On the other, you're dealing with harassment, racial tensions, and league politics. It's a lot for any player to handle, let alone a rookie. So what's next for the WNBA? And stars like Clark, the league's at a crossroads. They've got to figure out how to keep the excitement going while protecting their players. It's not just about what happens on the court anymore. It's about creating a safe, inclusive environment for everyone involved.